called Tommy Robinson as some kind of Nelson Mandela figure, and so on. Now, look, I dissolved Parliament, which you can't actually. Our Prime Minister, he's been basically taking on the country. And
angry with Trump is on
let me segue just
American.
Okay, let me bring in.
One of my biggest angry with Trump is on
let me.
Wait, did we watch this section? The entire section?
Apparently, from what I've read.
And
they're able to access and get what they want, which is no ability to have privacy laws to protect consumers, no ability to have new antitrust laws for Amazon and Netflix, and they're fighting with, and they flood the zone with
Green America. I think we should debate in good for our.
He's been basically taking on the country in spectacular fashion, calling for our Prime Minister to be in prison, calling for the King to dissolve Parliament, which he can't actually do, backing this thug who's in prison called Tommy Robinson as some kind of Nelson Mandela figure, and so on. Now, look, I, for what it's worth, I think Elon is a genius, albeit like all geniuses, he's flawed. And one of his flaws is he's got this tremendously powerful.
Look at how awkward Timmy is when he can't dictate the flow of the conversation, right? Because on his show, he likes to ambush you with topics that he's like super well read on or has memorized every autistic little incorrect misinformation factoid on. But like when Piers has control of the conversation, Timmy has to be really careful how he enters because he's always like 2 questions away from complete and utter collapse because he really has no idea what the fuck he's talking about beyond whatever script he's sent by Natasha.
Tool now, which is his 200 million followers on his own platform. And whilst I like the fact he's let everyone come back on to X, I think that's definitely balanced things up. And I think he is genuine about his desire to want free speech to return. I am concerned that he doesn't quite understand, or maybe he does but doesn't care, just how powerful his battering ram is when he tweets things like free Tommy Robinson, who is, to most people in my country, an extremely insidious individual who should absolutely not be free right now.
Why should Tommy not be free?
Well, because he's not the Nelson Mandela freedom fighter that most people in America seem to think he is. He's a convicted football hooligan who beat up a policeman and got convicted of that. He was convicted of...
I think that this is a debate tactic. I think Tim knows a little bit about this. We'll see how this argument goes. I think Tim knows a little bit about this, and when he asks Piers, why shouldn't he be free? Tim is trying to see what Piers knows about it so he can probe to do this like factoid abuse. This is always the manipulator, the abuser's tactic too. And interpersonally, people do this. Is when somebody's trying to manipulate you or mind fuck you or gaslight you, they're going to ask you questions about a thing. If you don't know every single particular detail, they're going to find the one thing that you don't know, and they're going to blow that little hole wide open so that you can't have any grounding on the topic, basically. But we'll see how this conversation goes. Maybe not. Who knows?
Passport fraud, trying to get into America, convicted of mortgage fraud, convicted of 2 contempts of court where he nearly wrecked trials involving the rape gang suspects when they were on trial, nearly literally avoiding justice for the girls in those cases. He's now in prison, nothing to do with the rape gang scandal, but entirely to do with his defamatory conduct towards a 15-year-old Syrian.
Destiny never does this. Happy said in YouTube chat, find me a link of me doing it, you degenerate fuck. Not only do I not do that, I'll usually even grant people. I'll say something like, okay, well, maybe if this isn't the case here, then, you know, like we could move on from here. We could assume this, or I give people tons of leeway and charitability in my conversation. I never expect anybody to have a link handy or to know exactly every single particular thing.
Syrian refugee boy, who he first of all defamed, trying to make him the villain of a video where he'd been bullied. This ended up with the Syrian refugee boy suing him.
Jesus. Okay, so Piers knows lots of stuff. So my prediction is Tim is just going to try to backtrack into some vague like free speech position, which is like some broad philosophical bullshit, and he's not going to fight on any of the facts. But let's find out.
£100,000 in damages, nearly £1 million in costs, and the judge telling Robinson, do not repeat these lies. And then he repeats all the lies in a movie that he produces as a so-called journalist, and he goes to prison for contempt of court, which he knows he's committing. So on every level, you can agree with his message about the rape gang scandal, where he's been right, like a lot of people, but you can also think he's about the most despicable messenger imaginable.
So Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play?
This is the challenge.
Right.
We don't believe you because for decades...
You don't believe me? What have I said that's wrong?
Oh, now Piers has stepped into the ring. Who does know things? Uh-oh.
They're facts, Piers.
Hang on, Tim, just to be clear, which part of my rant is untrue?
Tim can't counteract anything what you said. You probably know 20 billion times more than Tim does. Tim probably is a surface level at best and probably knows all of the defending points for all the weird Nazi shit or whatever Tommy Robinson does, all the defense of the free speech arguments around that, but it's just going to be the broadest, vaguest bullshit. What can we predict Tim's argument? Something along the lines of like, well, we don't trust the charges against him. Everybody says these things, but he's only being charged for it because of political reasons, and the charges and the way he's being held are unfair, and he's been in solitary confinement even though no one's ever done it like this before. It's the worst way in freedom of speech, and it's a political target. Everybody, that's my guess. We'll see what happens.
True.
So let me explain, not that I said you were wrong, but why we don't believe you. Because how long has been going on in the UK? These grooming gangs were being covered up. As the Telegraph reported, it was covered up to present the image of successful multiculturalism, where fathers were being threatened.
So Tommy Robinson is a hero of kind of like these weird, now they're Russian people, they used to be alt-right people, because Tommy Robinson was the one truth sayer about the mass Muslim rape gangs. And so that's the reason why people hate him politically now. This is why they say it's a political argument. Tommy was the only truth sayer, and he's the only one that came up and defended the white man against the evil Muslim rape gangs or whatever. And to be fair, the country that's happening and fumbled the messaging on this really hard for stupid reasons too, because they didn't want to appear racist or something stupid. It seemed like there was legitimately stupid shit going on by the countries involved, but this is why Tommy Robbins is like worshipped by these people.
threatened with arrest. Then you come to me and you say all these things about Tommy Robinson, and I tell you this. Maybe you're right. I have no idea. I'm not from the UK. I'm seeing a story that's been bubbling up for some time now about how your country allowed little girls to have their bodies to be. I can't even describe the things that came out in those transcripts.
It's despicable, yeah.
They were uncensored. No, despicable is an understatement. It was torturous.
I agree with you.
For government. So when I see Elon say something like this country is the government of this covering this up, the police covering this up.
He's right.
I'm sorry. And right. So when I see Tommy Robinson in the United States,
he's deflating this completely. Piers will own this. Piers is not going to defend the Muslim rape gangs. He told you his thing completely clearly. Piers' issue is just that the guy is a really bad spokesperson because he's a neo-Nazi. He is a neo-Nazi. Tim is trying to do the virtue signal like, "Wah!" Like he tried when he was screaming at Luke or whatever. But Piers isn't he's not an SJW.
And again, I'm not telling you wrong. I'm saying we don't believe that the attacks against Tommy are all entirely based on he's a bad guy who did bad things. You may be right. I don't know. I'm not from your country. What I see.
And then so Tim's going to walk away factually from everything. How far alt-right wing Bonger? I don't know if in Bonger you have right-wing people. How fine are they with Russia expanding? I'm not sure, but my guess is if you're a Bonger, you probably don't care as much. Probably the further east you are, the more kind of nervous you are about it. But for Bongers, I don't know how much. I'm sure in general they're not okay with it, but they probably don't think about it as much as people further east, I guess. But
see is your country covered this up. The things that were done to these little girls, I'm going to say it. They put a pump in the anus of a 12-year-old girl to expand it so multiple men could rape her, and your country covered that.
He's just so much virtue signaling. It's so much virtue signaling.
And then told me Tommy was the bad guy. And so I'm just like, look, man, I don't know. But when I heard that, I said the U.S. should be sanctioning the UK or doing whatever they can to remove all of those from power. I think they deserve prison for covering this up.
Yeah, but I think if you don't mind me saying, I think you're conflating two things, and that's my point. I totally agree with everything you've just said.
Good job. You had your moment, dude.
But I also believe that there is a completely weird misunderstanding of who Tommy Robinson is and what he represents in America, because he's managed to position himself very cleverly as this kind of freedom fighter who's only in prison because he blew the whistle on all this stuff, so they've silenced him by putting him in prison. None of that is true.
Except you did silence everyone else. I should say you. Sorry, I apologize for that. But your government was actively covering this up. So it creates a plausible scenario when Tommy Robinson is locked up over and over again, and people are like, here's a guy calling out the grooming gangs the government is actively covering up, and now they're...
And the issue again for Tim, and this is one of the reasons why these people are evil at best and foreign actors at worst, is everything Tim is saying is true from the perspective of an uneducated midwit, right? Like, well, this guy was saying something and it seems like he whistleblown something that was contrary to the government. It seems like he actually was right on this one thing. Maybe he's right on everything. That's where you, a journalist, should step in and say like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to dig a little bit more, and I'm not going to give the opinion that you would expect from a 3-year-old, who played peekaboo once with his parents and realized his parents didn't actually disappear into oblivion when their face hid behind their hands, so now I'm not going to trust him on anything, right? And let's actually investigate. Let's be a journalist and do real investigative work like Tim used to do before he was getting paid fat stacks of cash from the Kremlin to lie about everything. But
imprisoning him, by all means. I don't know about his trials or what happened.
All I would ask him, you're a smart guy. All I would ask is, I just think it would be reasonable for me
to like have an analysis of the situation. You don't have to have like the crazy reaction, like, you mean on what? So every single thing he says is probably right. You can act, like you're older than 12 years old.
Over here in the UK to say to all my American friends, just go and look at his criminal record, see what he was actually convicted of and why, and draw your own conclusions. And then I would say, then I would say, go and look at the judge's verdict in the defamation case, where you'll see a very, very well. It's actually worth 20 minutes of your time. What you'll understand.
This is what Elon Musk wants you all to do. I'm sorry, Tim. Like, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story as an expression of Asian journalism.
Oh, yep, and she's right. Oh, she's right. Tim doesn't care about the facts. It's all about narratives. Current administration's bad. Elon Musk has these same marching orders, by the way, right? That's why he's calling for the, Trudeau to step down. He's calling for the UK government to step down. He's calling for all, 100%. These are the marching orders. All of the incumbents, all of these vaguely liberal, whatever, left-leaning people, they're all bad. They all need to go. We need more fascists, more authoritarians, because I can exert influence and control over them easier than a democratically responsible person, right? Because they answer to me and not their constituents.
They pulled 34 charges with beyond
there is no evidence. There is no evidence that they resisted prosecutions out of political correctness. The person who was the actual chief prosecutor has supported. No, you're misreading. Well, whatever, Tim.
He's not miss anything. He just doesn't know. Well, no, he is misrepresenting. I'm so sorry. You're right. I assumed ignorance. She's assuming malice, or her words were implying malice, but he is being malicious. You're right.
Actually, to be fair, on that point, there is a growing body of thought across.
How hilarious that on this panel of insanely emotionally compromised childish men, it's our brave, powerful woman here who has the facts on her side, by the way.
across the board, actually, that political correctness did contaminate the
There
local
is no
council. Hang on, let me
there's a
finish.
growing body of thought. What is that?
Hang on, let me finish. That it did contaminate the thinking of local
I read the
councillors,
Telegraph.
of the police, who clearly were corrupt in some cases, of senior government people as well, that there was a general fear that enveloped them all that they couldn't take the action they felt they should take because the repercussions would be they would be branded a bunch of racists.
In the Times investigation by Andrew Norfolk, which I think was a terrific investigation, they counted 14 grooming gang prosecutions. In 2022, there were 35 grooming-related convictions in Starmer's last 3 years. This is Elon doing his Elon thing, which is exactly what he does. He takes a small bit of possible problem and mistakes and books it out, and then Tim gets a hold of it and decides.
And then it's not just a problem or mistake anymore. Now it's an intentional top-down conspiracy to undermine the white whatever. And
conflates 3 or 4 different things together so that, possibly you could, and there was a lake, and, it's the same thing that the Loch Ness Monster.
At least give me credit for my own agency. I don't get my news from Elon Musk.
True. Him and Elon both get it from the Kremlin.
That, but it's just, this is an attempt by him. I bet what my guess, I always look for whatever the grift, the business grift happens to be. They probably don't much like the Online Safety Act there at Twitter. They probably, that you have in Britain, which has controversies. Believe me, we have the same issue at COSA here in the United States. Lots of things you can debate back and forth over how it should be done because it's a very difficult issue around kids' online safety. And the fact of the matter is, in the United States, we protect kids offline more than we protect them online, which is really quite something. It's an astonishing situation. We overprotect them offline and underprotect them online. I've just done a series of really important interviews with people at Character AI and how kids are used. I just had the Yonder CEO where you put phones away and the deleterious effects of that. But what's happening with Elon is he has gotten a taste of power, and he says, this seems to work here, and I'm going to create all kinds of business. Now,
Americans attempting to copy paste their talking points onto the UK when it makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, but bongers do it too. When you fucking retards all saw like Trump as some huge fucking ally when you guys wanted to Brexit or whatever. I think that Brexit and the Trump shit were pretty closely aligned, joined to the fucking hip for a while. It's happening where like this world culture, these world internet cultures are trying to say everybody's problem is the same problem and everybody's got the same issues and everybody's got.
He's not a British citizen. It's none of his business. It's none of his fucking business, first of all. He wants political power and the ability to turn into, which I said right when he bought Twitter, a modern day Rupert Murdoch is what he's going for. He wants media power.
Except worse than Murdoch, because I think that Elon is more blatant than Murdoch was.
Power and control for his own self-interest and his own financial interest and his own ability to influence things. If you think, literally, it makes me laugh when you think about the idea of, first of all, they all act like victims. Elon's always on some victim thing that someone's out to get him.
True. They're always the victim while being in the position of power every single time. The world's richest man is the victim, right? Always. True.
When the world's richest people whine and moan about how they're victims, how they're misunderstood, how they don't have the thing, when they have got the power and the influence and the money to do everything in their own business self-interest.
Where they're the president. How often are we going to hear about the victims of Elon Musk and Donald Trump in his own administration, where he's the most powerful man in the world, the president of the United States, with the richest man in the world? How much are we going to hear how victimized they are?
Something has gone desperately wrong with what we are. We have an idolatry of innovators that has become undeserved for these people. It's all about their money. It's all about their money. Every single thing leads to some financial.
Okay, Dean, you respond, then I'll come to Dave after you.
Right. Quick thing, Piers. First of all, today you called Elon Musk a genius.
Yep.
Yesterday, I watched his show. You called him a genius numerous times. He's not a genius. Piers, you are a genius.
He is a genius.
I say that he's not a genius. Look, it's my first time on the show. I'm just kissing up to you. I do think you're a genius in certain ways, and that's success on different platforms. Elon Musk, my friend, is a cancer to democracy. That's what he is. His goal, and I challenge everyone watching, Google Elon Musk and criticism of China. And what you'll find is
Elon Musk being a cancer to democracy is the easiest position in the world to believe if you're a libertarian or if you're whatever the fuck Tim Pool was. Like everybody would have agreed with this. All of the people on here, or I can speak for these actually, but these two would have agreed with that 10 years ago, 100%. Yeah, the richest man in the world, who has the ear of the US president, who owns one of the largest news social media companies in the United States and the world. Yeah, of course, that's not good. But
article after article about, well, Elon Musk refuses to criticize the Chinese leadership. Even Steve Bannon, the philosopher king of MAGA, just said Elon Musk's paymaster is China. Vivek Ramaswamy said in 2023 that Elon Musk is a circus monkey. That's his word, a circus monkey for China. You just have Elon Musk block a budget deal according to Democrats in Congress because of revision, banning investments in China. And Elon Musk wants to build a battery factory and AI storage plant there. Elon Musk's biggest factory outside of the U.S. is in Shanghai. 50% of his cars come from China. This man's all about the money. That's why Piers, he goes after Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage.
I would say this though. In response to that, I would say you can be all about the money, but you can also come from inherently a good place, right, in your heart. The reason I say that is I look at what he's. Well, let me just present the argument. I think that what he's done with Starlink, what he's done with Neuralink, what he's done with Tesla, what he's done with all these things, what really is motivating him? Yes, to make.
Well, I mean, it's also all of these things are also very conveniently personally enriching him, and he's the richest man in the world, right?
Money, but also actually to save the planet. You could argue from itself. I mean, I sat with him for a couple of hours in the summer, listening to him talking about why we have to colonize Mars and humanoid robots and things. And of course, part of it is he's going to make himself even richer. He admitted that, but also I just got a feeling of a guy who genuinely thinks the planet is eating itself alive, and people like him have to save it. Now, you might not agree with it.
No, Piers, one thing. let me tell you, I think that's true. He does have those interests, and I've probably done more interviews with him than anyone else, long form. Not anymore, we don't speak. But one of the things that has occurred to me over the many years is he doesn't want to just save humanity. He thinks he is the savior of humanity.
Yes.
In one interview that we did when Tesla was on the ropes and was actually getting money from the federal government, he said, if Tesla doesn't survive, humanity is doomed. And I thought that was unusual and disturbing thing to say.
Well, he said if Trump didn't win, I think humanity was doomed.
Yes, he's very dramatic. He's a bit of a drama queen in many ways.
Yeah.
I think he thinks, and one time we did an interview, he thought we all live in a simulation, which I thought was
Which,
interesting.
by the way, we might. How do you know we don't?
Well,
You do?
it feels like every day. It feels like
Cara,
every
you and
single
I have no idea if we're even really here.
Some teenager of the future is fucking with all of us. I get it. I get the whole idea. And they're just playing a video game now. Amazon funds Melania's movie. Now this, you can just see them just doing things like this.
All right. I want to bring in Dave because he's very patient.
But let me say, I think he thinks he's ready. He's a big video game proponent. He's very good at video games, by the way. That is one thing I think he's quite good at. He is.
Fuck, even she bought the video game misinformation. He's never been good at video games. That's not true at any video game ever.
He thinks he's Ready Player One, and the rest of us are NPCs. Is that right? And non-player, whatever the characters. We are all NPCs in the world of Elon Musk in his brain in some fashion. So that's.
He actually said. In fact, let me get the exact wording of this because he posted to me yesterday. Piers' brain hasn't received its software update yet.
Well, my heart is seething with hate, so that's better. That's better, I guess.
Dave Smith, Elon Musk, a force for good or bad or a bit of both?
Well, I'm sure he's a bit of both, like everyone else. I try not to get into this like game of psychoanalyzing what people's motives are. I'm sure I'm guilty of it at times too.
Wait. Didn't we just hear in the whole beginning of this him rejecting the idea that the government or Facebook ever made mistakes? Hold on. I'm so sorry. Wait. Hold on. I'm so sorry. We're at 3904. Hold on. I am so sorry. Hold on. Let me do a rewind on this.
Psychoanalyzing.
Or bad or a bit of both?
Well, I'm sure he's a bit of both, like everyone else. I try not to get into this like game of psychoanalyzing what people's motives are. I'm sure I'm guilty of it at times too. Obviously.
What did he say earlier where he was like, you think that it's just a coincidence that the FBI and all of the, what are the words that I'm looking for? It was in this video. It was 30 minutes ago.
Intelligence officers signing on to this letter saying that this is the Russian disinformation, and he admitted to censoring people for that. This is like blatant election interference by the FBI and one of the biggest tech companies out there. I mean, I would think if you're going to reverse that, it would also come along with like an apology and some admission of what you were a part of. Point in American history.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was in New York, New York, the most blatant attack on free speech I've ever seen.
But it's not free speech. It's not a government.
I certainly was not. Listen, I was really since Donald Trump won control. But is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really?
Here we go. That's so funny. He's not even disagreeing on the facts. He's disagreeing on the psychoanalysis. This is a state of mind disagreement. This is an intentionality state of mind disagreement. Here we go.
Information problem under control. But is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation?
Here's what I'm saying,
and
is
then
our
realized it was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Our government.
Psychoanalyzing what? I try not to get into this like game of psychoanalyzing what.
Because when it's Elon Musk, we can't possibly psychoanalyze. Remember the game plan. As long as you remember the strategy book, you know what everything's going to be, okay? It's not that Russia's good. It's not that Elon is good. It's not that Trump is good.